Huntley came to the kind of wretched end many will think he deserved, but the impact of his crimes lives on.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at convicts throughout British history who were famously murdered while incarcerated.
We understand this is not the first time he's been attacked. He was stabbed back in 2023.
Kyle Bevan. In 2020, Kyle Bevan did the unthinkable, taking the life of a defenseless young daughter of his partner in her home. In court, he was described as a monster who deserved to rot in hell by the mother of the deceased.
This was a sustained, deliberate, and very violent attack.
This trial would lead to him being placed in HMP Wakefield, which would ultimately be where he spent his final days. Despite allegedly keeping to himself in prison, other inmates found his crimes reprehensible and decided to take supposed justice into their own hands. In his sleep, he was approached by 3 other inmates who would stab him over 30 times. He bled to death. Sidonio Terara. In 2008, Sidonio Terara was sentenced to life imprisonment for taking the life of his young daughter and also attempting to murder his son. While serving his sentence at the Long Lartin top security prison in Worcestershire, England, Terara was attacked by another inmate while at the prison workshop. The culprit, Victor Castigador, reportedly put a stone in a sock, which he used to beat Terara, who later succumbed to his injuries. Castigador, who claimed to have been purging the world of evil, was found guilty in 1990 of the murders of 2 security guards and was serving a life sentence already. He was subsequently issued a whole life order by the Birmingham Crown Court for killing Terara. John Mansfield. Back in 2006, British man John Mansfield broke into the home of his 63-year-old neighbour, Anne Alfonso, and attacked her with a knife. Alfonso died after receiving dozens of stab wounds, and police say that Mansfield had hoped to rob her of her spare change. Mansfield was sent to HMP Whitemoor, where he was detained in the Close Supervision Centre owing to his history of violence with other inmates. According to prison officials, those held in CSC are often considered the worst of the worst and are prone to inflicting violence on other inmates. Indeed, on April 13, 2025, Mansfield died from horrific head injuries that were sustained in an attack. He was 63 years old, the same age as Anne Alfonso. Leslie Bailey. Some crimes are so horrible that the people who commit them have to be segregated in prison.
Of course, we all knew that these things went on and they existed, but the degree and the amount involved surprised us all.
This was the case with English serial killer Leslie Bailey, who was a Rule 43 inmate at Whitemoor Prison. This meant that Bailey had to be separated from the rest of the prison population, as officials feared that he would be attacked. The rule stems from Bailey's past, as he was linked to various unspeakable crimes, including the deaths of 3 individuals.
In my profession as a police officer, we're in the business of obtaining confessions from people, but I could honestly say I don't really know if I'd ever want to hear another confession again if it was in those circumstances.
Bailey was known to roam with a gang of criminals, and police believed that they were guilty of even more crimes and deaths. Regardless, justice came for Bailey despite his position in prison. In October of 1993, Bailey was found strangled to death in his cell. Andrew Dumbo Gallagher. 20 years into his sentence at HMP Addiewell in Scotland, Andrew Dumbo Gallagher was believed to still be a prominent member of the Lyons crime family. He even famously survived an attack in August 2021. Still, the public seemed stumped when the enforcer was found dead of an apparent overdose just 3 months later. It wasn't until 2025 when it was determined that he was forcibly given this cocktail by unknown parties with unknown motivations. This wound up being a historically devastating year for the Lyons, marked by the assassination of 2 leaders and the arrest of 4 members in Dubai. Confirming Gallagher's murder was the beginning of the organization's instabilities coming to light. Billy Wright.
Billy Wright. One of the most sinister figures to emerge from 30 years of violence.
Do you feel like you can't be killed?
Oh, everyone can be killed.
Going by the wonderful nickname King Rat, Billy Wright was a prominent Northern Irish loyalist and leader of the Loyalist volunteer force. He was heavily involved in violent paramilitary activity during the Troubles and staunchly opposed the peace process, often killing innocent Catholic civilians. Wright was eventually arrested for making death threats and imprisoned in the high-security Maze prison in 1997. Despite warnings about threats to his life, he was housed near inmates belonging to LVF's rivals, the Irish National Liberation Army. On December 27, 1997, INLA members smuggled weapons into the prison and assassinated Wright inside a van, shooting him multiple times at close range. The hit raised serious concerns about security failures at the facility, with many suspecting collusion by prison authorities.
There were many more dark days to come for the people of Northern Ireland before that ceasefire would come to pass.
Colin Hatch. Called both highly dangerous and a menace to the public, Colin Hatch was sentenced to life back in 1994 for committing an unspeakable crime.
When he was jailed in 1994, Colin Hatch was told he was so dangerous it would never be safe to release him and he would die in prison.
Hatch had a history of similar behaviour and was sent to a maximum facility in Yorkshire called HMP Prison Full Sutton. He remained in the prison for almost 2 decades, but his life was cut short in February of 2011. In what prison officials called an accident, Hatch was ambushed by another inmate named Damien Folkes, who had a history of attacking prisoners involved with a certain type of crime.
At his trial, Colin Hatch had said he'd be a dead man if he were sent to prison, and so it proved. Humberside police are now questioning 35-year-old fellow prisoner Damien Folkes in connection with his death.
Ian Huntley, another prominent victim of Folkes, survived his attack. Hatch was not so lucky, and he died from the injuries that Folkes had caused. Richard Huckle.
In Huckle's hometown, news of his crimes have shocked his friends and acquaintances. They're trying to understand the enormity of what he did.
One of Britain's most notorious criminals was Richard Huckle, a young man who spent a lot of time in Malaysia. While there, Huckle spent his days doing freelance photography, studying IT, and working as a Christian missionary. But it was also during this time that Huckle committed dozens of horrible sexual offences. Huckle was eventually arrested by the National Crime Agency and convicted of 71 counts of sexual assault, resulting in life in prison. On October 13, 2019, Huckle was killed in his cell by a fellow inmate named Paul Fitzgerald. This attack shocked the prosecution that was trying Fitzgerald for the murder, who called it a sadistic and prolonged attack. Fitzgerald was given an extra 34 years for killing Huckle.
It appears his parents sold up and moved away as soon as they could. His elder brother did not want to discuss him. Huckle's sister-in-law told me,
"None of his family will speak about him. None of us ever want to see Richard again."
Ian Watkins. There was a time when Ian Watkins was notorious as the lead singer for the popular Welsh rock band Lostprophets. Sadly, the reputation of the whole group was destroyed by the frontman's conviction on many counts of horrific sexual abuse in 2012.
Earlier, his lawyer had told the court he was deeply, deeply sorry and ashamed of what has happened.
His stint in HMP Prison Wakefield, expected to last nearly 30 years, was spent in fear of violent inmates seeking fame or simply crassly moralistic justice. Watkins barely survived a hostage situation in 2023. 2 years later, 2 inmates were charged with stabbing him to death. That such a profoundly shocking moment in rock history was quickly brushed off as unsurprising has essentially sealed the ruin of Watkins' legacy.
Emergency services attended and the man was pronounced dead at the scene a short time later.
Ian Huntley. Out of every criminal on this list, the one with the most media coverage would likely be Ian Huntley.
You may, as it turned out, have been the last person to actually chat to them before they vanished.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Huntley, a school caretaker, was found to be the one responsible for the Soham murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, which shook Britain to the core back in 2002.
The whole world wanted justice for the 2 girls. Huntley was charged with the murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman.
He would spend the next couple of decades in multiple prisons, where he had a target placed on his back, surviving attacks such as the one mentioned previously, as well as ones featuring improvised weapons, for example, boiling water. The final attack was a fatal one at HMP Franklin in 2026, where Huntley was bludgeoned to death.
He was on cleaning duty in a workshop when he was bludgeoned with a metal pole by another prisoner. His assailant is thought to be Anthony Russell.
Let us know in the comments which true crime list we should tackle next.